Will my profile come in the corner?
Sorry for that.
Will the camera pick up?
No, you won't be able to see yourself.
Oh, no, they need to see. Like last time.
You haven't sent it to them.
No. But when I start, will this profile come?
No, you won't be able to see it. They won't be able to see. So that they
have to see.
Right. Okay. Bear with me one
more.
Yeah.
So we will start now. Do I have with me both the speakers?
We are present. I am also present.
Okay, Dilip sir.
Okay.
Should I begin, Dilip sir? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll just go back to the slides.
Okay. Hello and welcome to today's international webinar on managing stress and exam blues. I hope all of you are safe and healthy. I am Dr. Smarati Patnaik, Assistant Professor, ASBM University, and I'll be your moderator for the session. I am very pleased to introduce you to the eminent speakers for the session. First, we have with us Professor Dr. Dilip Mahapatra. Dr. Mahapatra qualified as a medical doctor with a MBBS from SCB Medical College and Utkal University in Odisha State, India. After a brief stint of a few months as junior resident in Safdarjung Hospital and AIIMS in New Delhi, he left for Ireland. Dr. Mahapatra received his MD in internal medicine from the University of College Hospital, Galway and National University of Ireland. He was supported for the MD program with a fellowship grants from Health Research Board, Ireland and Celiac Society of Ireland while working as a registrar and research fellow in gastroenterology in the Department of Clinical Medicine, Gastroenterology, Galway University College Hospital. Dr. Mahapatra obtained his intercollegiate higher diploma memberships from Royal College of Surgeons and Royal College of Physicians in Dublin and from Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh and Royal College of Physicians, London. He also holds a higher diploma in quality in healthcare management from the Royal College of Surgeons in Dublin and the National University of Ireland and a membership diploma from the College of Emergency Physician, London. He is a fellow in sports and exercise medicine and a fellow of the Royal Academy of Medicine in Ireland. He is also a fellow of the Royal Society of Health, UK. As a clinical lecturer in medicine in St. James Hospital and Trinity College, Dublin, Dr. Mahapatra was awarded a Pfizer Foundation Fellowship Grant for research. He has trained in numerous hospitals in Ireland, including a research fellowship placement in the Royal Victoria Hospital, Northern Ireland, for studying the incidence of malignancy in celiac disease in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and has been practicing as a consultant in general internal medicine with a special interest in gastroenterology and sports medicine since 1993 in Dundalk. He is currently the Pro VC of Ballsbridge Global University with main campus in Argentina, the Dominican Republic and Cyprus. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay.
We also have amongst us today Dr. Asif Mahapatra. He is a production engineer with post-graduation in management from Jamna Lal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies and a PhD in business administration from Aligarh Muslim University. He has done advanced diploma in management research from IMA and diploma in total quality management from University of Stirling, UK. Dr. Mahapatra has spent over 35 years in corporate sector across different industry segments like manufacturing, automobiles, chemical, textiles, supply chain, etc. His core competencies are in the areas of human resource management, industrial engineering, quality and industrial relations, He began his career in Tata Motors as an industrial engineer and then transitioned to a career in HR at the Tata Motors corporate office. He then moved to ICICI Bank as VP HR, post which he worked with Jubilant Bhartiya Group, Reliance Retail, and Future Supply Chain as Senior VP HR. He also had the opportunity to serve as Director HR at Pfizer and Raymond. In recognition of his contribution in the area of HR, he has been awarded the HR Leadership Award by the Asia Pacific HRM Congress. Dr. Mahapatra has been passionate about management education for over a decade. He has taught at IIM Lucknow, IIM Udaipur, IIM Rohtak, IIM Shillong, and IIM Ranchi. He has served as the secretary to the Board of Governors at IIM Ranchi. Additionally, he has served in the Academic Advisory Board of 4 management institutions in India. We welcome you, Dr. Mahapatra.
Welcome.
We are really fortunate and very elated to have with us such eminent speakers today. I again welcome all of you to this webinar. A little housekeeping before we get started. First of all, I would request all the participants to please keep their audio and video off throughout the session to avoid any kind of disruption and disturbance. And we would love to hear from our participants during today's presentation. So if you have any queries, questions during the presentation, please send them to us through the chat box. I'll bring them up once all the presenters have shared their views and opinions. Thank you. Stress is inevitable and ages old. It is known to us since the time we take birth. In fact, the very process of birth is quite stressful. Studies by several researchers, including the well-known Hans Selye, founder of the stress theory, show that there is a strong association between stress and productivity. Stress within the tolerance limit always leads to high productivity, beyond which it has a detrimental effect and turns to be burnout stress syndrome. Stressful experiences come in many forms. In general, stress is related to both the external and internal factors. The external factors, they include the physical environment, which includes your job, your relationships with others, your home, and all the situations and challenges, all the difficulties and expectations that we are confronted with on a day-to-day basis. The internal factors, they determine our body's ability to respond to and also to deal with the external stress-inducing factors. The internal factors which influence your ability to handle stress, they include your nutritional status, be it your overall health, your fitness levels, your emotional well-being, and to a large extent, the amount of sleep and the rest you get. As we age, our immune systems become less efficient, and again, adding stress to that can lead to disease progression or the onset of any kind of disease. Stress is the body's natural defense against any kind of predator or danger. It causes the body to flood with hormones that prepare its system to evade or confront danger. People commonly refer to this as the fight or flight mechanism. When humans face a challenge or threat, they have a partly physical response. The body activates resources which helps people either to stay and confront the challenge or to go to a safety position as fast as possible. According to the American Psychological Association's annual survey back in 2018, the average stress levels in the US were around 4.9 on a scale of 1 to 10. The survey found that the most common stressors were employment and money. As one example of stress related to a life transition, the teen years, which often brings about an increase in perceived stress as young adults learn to cope with increasing demands and also the pressures from the significant others through different expectations along with their changes in their bodies. Studies have shown that excessive stress during the teen years can have a negative impact upon both the physical and the mental life, mental health later in life. Over the last few years, there has been much discussion on the importance we place on examinations as a society. And certainly we have come to realize that it can create a very unhealthy environment and situation at times. Students start holding themselves up to prepare for their upcoming exams, whether it's the dreaded 12th standard boards or any kind of highly competitive entrance exams. Some of them pull all-nighters, others forget to eat. But one thing is common to all students, and that is feeling stressed. Some may cope with it just fine, letting the stress provide them with a push to work harder, while others may struggle with it constantly, feeling more and more overwhelmed with every passing day. The pressure to perform well from teachers, the family members, even the tutors at times can be quite exhausting, and one can suffer from anxiety as a result, and which is again counterproductive, as during your exams you need your mind to be the healthiest it has ever been and at the top of its game. So considering this as a brief background set on the topic, we would now move ahead with the deliberations. I am pretty sure after we listen to the deliberations by the two eminent speakers who have done substantial work in this field, one being renowned medical practitioner and other a known educationist and researcher, we will have better ways to beat the stress and those exam blues. With this, now I request our first panel member, Professor Dr. Dilip Mahapatra, to please go ahead with his deliberation. Sir, please.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik. And basically, you covered a lot of ground on the stress, so made my lecture much easier because people will understand it better. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the people who have joined us, and thank you to my eminent colleague, Professor Mahapatra as well. So let me begin with first with a few general sort of things. And before that, in UK, in Europe, in Ireland, we have a declaration policy that before you start any lecture to a university or to a college, you have to declare your financial interest. So the first slide, I'm declaring that. I have no financial interest or relationship to disclose for this presentation. I have not received any grants from the pharmaceutical industry. I have not received any honoraria or any other compensation for the organizer of this international webinar, and thank you. So that's the first bit, which is a very important bit, because this will then qualify for a CME. So I can get a CME after this presentation. Okay, so let us start. What is stress? You got a good background from Professor Patnaik, and she literally covered most of the problems which affects us through the mechanism of stress. I will actually divide this into the stress for the general group of population and the stress which we call the academic stress for the students. So let us have a look at this. So any type of change which causing physical or emotional or psychological strain is stress. And everyone experiences stress in some form or the other at some time of their life. It could be in the teenage years, and then it could expand to the later years of life. And how do you actually respond to the stress, and what is the difference? So let us look at the mental and physical health effects on the stress, and how we cope with the stress is very important. And then we look at the stressors, or which are the common signs, or the signs of stress. And then we look into the changes in mood, or the labile mood swings. So we'll discuss this bit by bit as we go along with the presentation. Now, coping with the stress is a fundamental biological mechanism in humans, which deals with all types of stress, whether it be emotional or physical. The normal response is the flight or the fight approach, because people are built with a different sort of response. Somebody will take the stress up and try to actually deal with, which is the fight mechanism, okay? So it doesn't actually recede from the symptom and signs of stress, but want to actually help himself or herself by putting up a fight. The other group would actually recede, that the pressure is too much for them, they can't handle it. So they will actually cope with a different mechanism that is called the flight mechanism. So they will actually withdraw from the main onslaught and go on to the periphery. And their fight will be very minimal from the periphery, or not at all. It depends on how they are coping, because we can then say whether the stress is acute or is a chronic stress. So the mechanism for these are different. So when the person is willing to escape or face up the fight, this is going to happen, and this is the what you call the biological step or the biopsychological step, which is going to happen over a period of weeks and months into years, because I've seen a lot of people with chronic stress and it's going on for years. So though it can only happen for a day or two, like most of the people are subjected to the stress, will only have the acute symptoms for a day or two and then starts receding. But it doesn't happen to the unfortunate group who cannot deal with this, and this goes on, and the situation actually affects their the power to deal with their day-to-day life or the ADLs, activity of daily life. So this is a classic picture I picked up from the office, and it explains a lot. Here we see a young girl, a student, and look at her posture. She is bent forward.
So this slide, Dr. Mahapatra, slide is not changing, sir. So you can slide, so you can put it so that it can come. Maybe you are on the still first slide.
Or is it? It's not changing, is it?
It's not changing.
Oh. Okay. What happened then? I thought it is changing when I'm pressing the button here. It's not changing, is it?
So you can go to slideshow.
Okay. No, I'm not very good at that. Hold on a minute, please.
Or just shift to the next slide.
I'll stick to yeah. Okay. This is the slide I wanted to describe. Can you see this slide? A picture.
No, sir. The slide is still the first one.
It's only showing the first one.
Yes.
Okay. Just a minute. Okay.
So if you want, you can just send the slide to me. I can operate it for you.
Can you send the slides there? Can you send the slides to her?
Okay.
Because it's stuck on the first slide.
Okay. That's a casting issue.
Okay, we are trying to send this out to you.
Do we have an email address?
Let's see. I hope you got the slides, Professor Patnaik.
I just received your mail. I am downloading it. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Sir, I am sharing my screen. Just let me know if it's visible.
Yeah, where are you?
Just a second.
Yeah, I say. Yeah, nothing is coming here. Your name is here.
Just a second. Can you see the slide?
No?
Now? So there would be two names. One would be my presentation.
Okay, something is coming. Let's see what is coming here. Yeah, I can see the slides now, my own slides.
Yeah. So you can just ask me.
Yeah, so would we go to the picture slide then?
Okay, sir. Just a second. This one?
Yeah, this one. Okay. So just
Okay.
when I say next, you just change the slide. Okay, that will be better.
Okay.
Then.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you for your help. Yeah. Okay. So
Welcome.
this is again. I'm coming back to this slide, and this slide actually shows a classical picture of a young person, a lady not being able to handle stress. So look at the body language. She stooped to the front. Her both the arms raised, and she's clutching her head. You can have a look at that and look at the pile of books um, on both sides. On either side of her, see, you can see the pile of books. And then there is a cup there. She might be having coffee or tea. Why I'm showing you this? Because this is what happens when you actually get the stress. These are the physical signs which some people do not notice, especially the person who's having it. For example, so many books, that's a stressor, because in her mind, she's thinking she's preparing for exam and she has to go through all the books. It's unreasonable to go through all these books just before the exam. And that is the reason I'm showing this, that you have to allocate time, we'll discuss later. And then you see that she might be taking a lot of tea or coffee. That contains caffeine, which actually is not a very good thing, because initially it will stimulate you. After that, your absorption power actually goes less and less as you keep on drinking this, because what happens, the brain doesn't get a rest. It just clicks on, clicks on, clicks on all the time, every time you are having a cup of coffee or tea. And this is causing what you call the lag phase. And the lag phase is there, nothing will absorb. You'll be just reading that chapter again and again, but you are not absorbing anything. So this is a very important thing for the students, that you need to plan out your curricula in such a way and your studying habits in such a way that you do not cram everything just a few days before the exam. In most of the cases, it's going to only cause problem. It's not going to help you. So this is the most important message I'm sending to my younger colleagues. Okay, Dr. Patnaik, can I have the next slide, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now coming back to the common signs of stress, what we are looking physically, most of us will experience this, but none of them might complain because they'll say it just goes away. Well and good, if it goes away, it's fine, but you have to be prepared and notice this yourself, because if you notice it and it's not going away, then you have to seek help. So what are those signs? The signs are clammy or sweaty palms. You will be perspiring through your palms and it will be very sweaty, even if you are in an air-conditioned room. This will happen. And then there's insomnia, which is the difficulty in sleeping because the behavioral changes occurs and the brain doesn't shut down. If the brain doesn't shut down, you will neither have a REM sleep or you will have a NERM sleep. So this is not going to happen. Then the feeling of anxiousness or anxiety will be there. There will be a lack of energy or low energy. Then you might have muscle tensions with basically the shoulder and the neck muscle, because that's where the sort of stress is when you are actually crowding onto a book or writing something on the table. So these muscles are the front runners in that pose. So you have to be careful about it. Then you might have rapid or racing heartbeat, which we call tachycardia, which is directly influenced by the level of stress or the mixture of drinks you might be taking. In India, it's not very common, but here the students drink a lot alcohol as well. So, and take amphetamine. So that can cause this problem. Even coffee drinking and tea drinking can cause this problem added on to the stress. Sometimes you get the dizzy spells where you feel as if you are going to fall down. This happens in active stress. Then as you go along, you will also have what you call anorexia or overeating. These are the digestive problems associated with stress. So these are the things you have to look at. Frequency or sickness, throwing out food, that can have happen within a couple of weeks of having stress if it's not sorted out. Then you also have anger outburst. Anger outburst is something which affects us at times, but if it's very frequent without any apparent reason, then it is very likely that the person is having a lot of stress. So this has to be looked at as well. So let's go to the next slide, Doctor. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So as we continue along, that is very important that we look at the signs, especially experiencing too much pressure. If there's a peer pressure, there's a pressure from the teacher or from the lecturer or from your colleague, those things have to be looked at. And then the difficulty in concentrating, because if you do not concentrate properly, you are not going to absorb much. So it is also very important that you need to concentrate as much as you can to soak in as much information as you can, and then only you'll be able to actually reproduce that. So retention is a part of our higher brain system, where you actually not only absorb the information, but you retain it. Unless you retain it, you're not going to put it back. And it's very important for the students, especially because they need to retain that knowledge and then bring it out when they're called in for the exams. So it's a very important mechanism. And if it goes haywire, then there's a serious problem. Along with this, there's bouts of worrying and anxiousness. Normal worrying anxiousness is okay, but if this is happening very frequently without any apparent reason, then you have to look at its cause. And stress is one of the cause where you can actually have it. And then, as I said, trouble in remembering. Look, the higher brain functions are the cognitive functions. And in the cognitive range of scale, if these are disturbed, then you will always have trouble in remembering. And this will cause an automatic problem which we call irritability. So you'll get irritated and you'll get very moody. Sometimes the mood swings as well. You'll be elated and then you'll get depressed, and sometimes you'll get a lucid interval. The lucid interval would be normal. So on one side it will be elated or hyperly anxious. The other middle you might have a lucid interval, and then you can also go into a depression. So these are the moody swings or the mood swings, which can cause a lot of irritation to anyone who is experiencing stress. Then on the physical side, we also find a lot of people actually have frequent bouts of colds and infection, because this causes a problem with the immunity system, how the immunity system deals with the bacteria, the common bacteria and viruses causing common cold and other infection is affected directly with these changes. So you have to look at those. And then one of the important things which everybody can identify very quickly is the changes in the body weight. Because if you're overeating, you are going to put on a lot of weight. And it can happen with the stress as well. It will make you to eat as much as possible, and as much as you can. The satiety center is totally deranged, so you actually go junk food. So you can actually go to any extreme with that. And in some cases, especially in the girl student we find, or the women at work, that they actually stop eating. They go into the anorexic phase. And if this happens, there is a rapid loss of weight, which is not good. So either putting up weight, excessive weight is not good, and also reducing a lot of weight very suddenly, very quickly is also very harmful. So you have to look at that. Then the ADLs affecting are also identifiable in this cohort of people suffering from, especially from chronic stress. They would have what we call poor self-care. That means the way they dress up, the way they have their makeups and everything is totally out of gear. They totally abnormal. They might not put, they might even put different pair of socks, like, very different color. They're so absent-minded and so much absorbed with their own problem. They might not have a matching sort of a dress, the normal sort of a dress. They might not comb their hair. They might not trim their beard. They might not shave. All those things are there, So these are the external features of poor self-care. So one has to identify this. Then the other thing is, when you go into the what you call a depressive sort of a scale, and there are different types of depression, but I would say non-normal depression, because there's a depression where actually it's called a reactive depression. If somebody close dies in the family, obviously you are going into a depression. That is perfectly normal. And you are coming out of that within days or within weeks. But if you go into a depression with without any identifiable stressors, it is called endogenous depression. Endogenous depression is very difficult to treat, but can be treated. So in those, when you are going into the endogenous depression, it is very common to actually see that you are isolating from your close friends and family because you want to be left alone. And that's one of the points which should be looked at and should be reported, because it's a condition where you need treatment, and if you don't get the treatment, it just gets worse. Then losing interest and hobbies in sport. A lot of us, especially the youngsters, are actually taking on some hobbies or are involved in some sports. Suddenly they cut off from all this thing. Obviously, there's a problem. Why are they cut off from all this? And why they are not pursuing their hobbies? Why they are not taking on to the sports? Why not they leaving the house? Why they're not going outside? Obviously, there's a problem. So you have to look at it, and then we find the solution as we go along. Doctor, the next slide, please. Okay, so continuing on that, the work and the study overload. This is one of the things I find very important for our younger colleagues and the student population, because as we go on to the competitive world, people are expected to work heavy hours, and the students are expected to study, and this can cause an overload, and the performance is directly linked to their grades. If they get a good grade, so be it. If they don't, then there's a peer pressure mounting, oh, you didn't study that well, and that's why you couldn't actually get the grades. So the pressure is already there. A peer pressure from home, a peer pressure from colleague, peer pressure from friends as well, because there's a competition between friends as well, which can be healthy, but sometimes it can be very unhealthy. So you have to look into that. Financial difficulties, thankfully in India, in a certain group of students isn't there, where the parents are actually taking care of that. But here universally, after 16 years, even if you have a very wealthy parent, they are not going to look after you. So you will have to take a bank loan to study further. So after you leave school, you are in a different world. You'll come to your parents, say hello during Christmas or visit once or twice, that's all. You are in a hostel, you have your own life, and you get whatever financial help you get with the bank loan. And in professional courses, there are different sort of bank loans for general courses and professional courses, and normally they do that. And when they go into the employment situation, there's a installment payment, that you pay the bank. So this is how it works here. In India, the financial difficulty is there among the poorer students or the students who need assistance, So in that situation, I think there are some charitable institutions or government to help them, but more and more of these are necessary if you want to achieve a good percentage of students, going into the third level of education, so they need a lot of help into that. The parenting and domestic stress is especially there. But if you have problems with the child, and the child could also have intellectual disability, for example, autism or something like that. So we are actually going into a lot of stressors at home, and sometimes the parents do not agree how to bring the child, So that domestic stress is always there. And this can lead to the performance of the child, how the child is going to do anything in school or college. Here we have special needs college. We are trying to do away with those. Those are for the intellectual disability, where we have a personal attendant actually going with the student to the school and sitting out. And that model needs to be actually replicated and do away with the special needs, because the stigma is still there. If you are going to a special needs school, people will think, okay, what is happening? This is a problem, and we need to sort it out because the parents are not very happy with it. So those things happen, causing a lot of stress. Then it also can cause day-to-day inconveniences, which is understandable. And as I said earlier, when we had the slide problem, what the response, the physiological or the psychophysiological response to stress, fight it out or escape from it, right? Fight it out is a good version, because there you will have a lot of chance of overriding the stress by your own sort of effort, or with a little effort from a psychologist or a doctor. But if you are flying at a flight, you are actually escaping from that. And there are two problems here. One problem is that you are actually making it very difficult for your own family and friends to diagnose you that you are actually having stress, because you are receding, you are flying out, you are not actually presenting with much. And that causes a late referral to a psychologist or to a doctor. So people do go through this, but it's not a very good thing to happen. You should come upright. Yes, everybody faces stress. Stress is not a stigma. So you should come out immediately, that I'm feeling stressful, I need help. And that's the best way to tackle this. As I said, unhealthy, this goes on to the next phase of unhealthy eating habits, addiction to nicotine, alcohol, and substance abuse, which is very common here in the Western part. And I'm sure in some pockets of India it will be happening. Then the persistent negative thoughts. The persistent negative thoughts can actually have knock-on effects, because we are going constantly on a negative sort of a journey. This will also kind of contaminate your immediate surroundings and then spill over. So there's both. Immediately it will contaminate and then it will spill over. So you need to actually rectify that as soon as possible. Then the chronic diseases. This is a direct role. Many of our studies have proved this. There's a direct link to it. Like diabetes, for example, especially type 2 diabetes. We directly link to it. Heart diseases, arthritis, osteoarthritis, for example, rheumatoid is not as much, but osteoarthritis, yes, it is linked to it. So you need to actually find out where the stressors are and present yourself as quickly. If you cannot rectify it yourself, present it as quickly as you can to qualified people, whether it be a psychological team or a doctor specializing in stress, or even your school or college medical officers. You have to look into that and do as much as you can. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I briefly touched, and also Dr. Patnaik mentioned, not all types of stress are harmful. Stress is good for us in a way. You need a bit of stress to actually stimulate your brain and have a lot of endogenous function, which actually kickstarts a lot of activities, and these are productive activities. So these are known as productive stress. Productive stress is good for us. Everybody goes through that from time to time, and they will actually benefit from it. But if you are coming to the acute stress, the short-term and distressing response to a day-to-day life situation, then you need to actually bring it back to your pre-stress level. And for that, either you fight and you get over it with the friends and family's help, and if you're not able to do that, the medications are there which will help you out, calm you down and help you out, okay? But the chronic stress is a problem for all of us, not only for the person who's suffering from it, but also for the physician, the psychology team, and others who are involved in stress management. It's a huge problem for us because it is going on for a long time, and it has excessive workload attached to it, and can be kind of related to for example, simple thing, like you're overworking a tiring job. So you are not actually getting a lot of resting there, a period of rest, or a period of repair to the activities you are doing. Your brain needs to actually get repaired, your body needs to get repaired. You are not getting that chance. So this is happening. And another stressor is martial or a marital, disharmony. The marital disharmony, to a certain extent, is everywhere. There is not a single family who will say, okay, we have a marital bliss. You can have an occasional argument, or you can give in the power sharing. Sometimes the husband takes on the lead, and the wife follows. And sometimes the wife takes the lead and the husband follows. It's in between, they do. But when it gets out of hand because of other stress appearing, and this is called marital disharmony, which is not being addressed to as such, then the problem starts. You will be very, very much stressed because you cannot handle it anymore. And that's where the whole thing begins. And there where you need people to help. These are qualified people who are actually well trained to deal with marital disharmony. These are counselors. These are marriage counselors. So you can actually go to them and get this sorted out. So it is very important, rather than keeping it and sweeping it under the carpet till it gets out of hand completely. In that case, you end up in court. You don't need a marriage counseling. You need an advocate and a court. We don't want that to happen. So these are the things you have to look at. And then the acute stress can become, over a period of weeks and months, a chronic, because the coping mechanism is breaking down. And once the coping mechanism is the endogenous mechanism that the body is actually geared to fight over a certain number of weeks or months before it gives up. If he gives up, it's a different story altogether. But if he's not giving up, then what he tells you to do is to have adjustments which would be necessary. That would be activity of daily life. For example, if you have taken up too much work or too much responsibility, then you can delegate those and get some lot of free time for you to de-stress yourself, because that you can do yourself. Or take on some other hobbies, which is de-stressing you, like simple gardening, walking in your garden, or just take a brief walk, or talk to your friend and family, or have bouts of laughter, or read some funny things, or watch funny video or something like that. So all those are necessary, very simple things. Now, mind you, a lot of people get very defensive. They say, no, I am not stressed, because if I say so, I'll end up with a counselor, or I'll have to go to a doctor to get medicine for it. I don't want to do that. No, it doesn't. You please try. And you try at your own comfort level, in your own home. And if adjustments can be made, you won't need anything else. You can just go from there and revert back to your normal self. Whatever you are prior to the stress hitting you, you can actually go back to that. Next slide, please. Okay, so I was thinking about, when I was talking to some medical students, I was just thinking about this, that I should put this in. This is the impact, because what is it? At the end of the day, stress is not going to make everybody sick, but those with the impact have to deal with it. So what is those impacts? These are, number one is the burnt out syndrome. These are also called professional working syndrome. It affects doctors. I find burnout syndrome, it's affecting a lot of doctors here, because the continuity of work, the continuity of night shifts and everything. But the worst part is the fear part, the fear of getting sued. Here, nobody beats up doctor, they just go to your solicitor and send a letter out, if you are medically negligent, or they seem that you are medically negligent. And the medical council here is actually favoring the general public. Before there was a half and half in the medical council panel. Now the general population, people from general background, actually are more in the medical council than the doctors. The reason for that is because it's a self-governing institution. They want to show the transparency to the public. But sometimes what happens, you get frivolous complaints, and that can affect a doctor, and that can actually lead to burnout syndrome. And the same thing happens in other professions as well, and especially in security, night guards and all those people, who are, because they don't get much rest. They are constantly on the beat. They are constantly on the move. That happens here in the Garda force. That happens. So professionally, it is proven to be linked to certain. It can happen in any profession or even without a profession, but it's linked mostly to high demand profession. I call it a high demand profession. If you are in one of the high demand profession, you can actually get it. And then it leads to anxiety disorders. Some of the anxiety disorders are simple enough, that you can deal with. But if it goes into sort of a generalized anxiety disorder, that you are anxious about something or everything, is a problem. Because it can also go to obsessive disorder, and from obsessive disorder, if you're not treated, you can also have simple depression. So you can go from one step to the other step. So you have to look at physical things I also find, because that's the body's mechanism, that you get a hair loss. So you'll find suddenly the hairline is receding, and then you get the hairs. You look at while you are combing the hair, you'll find a lot of hair sticking to your comb. So this is also a sign that you could be actually having a bout of stress or going through a lot of stress. Diabetes again is the thing, especially the Mancunian type of diabetes running in family is very susceptible to stress. And these run in the family where most of the people belong to type A. They are worked out very easily, they're angry, they get stressed out, so it runs in those families. So that is one of the things you need to discuss. Obesity is again related directly to stress, because to cover your stress or to bring it down to a certain level, you start eating, even if you are watching a TV or something or doing something, without any reason, you are taking a lot of, say, for example, potato chips, you just keeping on devouring that, maybe 6-7 packets in one go. And there's no control of your food, you just bring in a food, sit in front of a TV and just watch a program or something, trying to de-stress, but at the same time eating. Sometimes you eat a wrong food because you have no time to cook or no time to actually select good food. You go into the supermarket, hypermarket, get whatever you want, or you order food from takeaways, or even you can go to some restaurants and eat. But this binging habit actually brings a lot of obesity, and for that you have to pay later because you are getting stressed when the friends start commenting, oh, what happened? You're getting so fat. This is again a stressor part. Then one of the physical thing, because I was trained as a gastroenterologist, that I find a lot of the stress ulcers, swelling ulcers, the gastric ulcers. Because of the stress, you will get a lot of gastric ulcers, which will cause a lot of discomfort and pain in the abdomen and the epigastrium, and that will knock you off food. You probably end up just having glasses of milk, cold glasses of milk or something like that. They are cured for this, can be done very quickly, but you need medical help then. The other endogenous effect is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland produces hormones, which is for regulating metabolism. And because of this, it overproduces. So you get hypothyroidism. So that will be physically noticed with either a hypothyroid goiter, but mostly it's the hypothyroid goiter, not hypo. But you will find that your eyeballs, they're protruding, they're getting bigger and larger. You will find that in suddenly a person which was not prominent, his eyes were not prominent, are getting very prominent, That's called protopsis. And this is directly linked to hypothyroidism and stress, so one should avoid that. Blood pressure, a very easy marker, and normally it affects about 80-90% of people with hypertension. This is a very quick physiological response, It mounts steroid production and the blood pressure goes up. So this is one you have to look at and treat if it's not coming down. Frustration. The frustration is very common in stress, because what happens is you are not going to, a lot of people just cocoon themselves, they're not able to share their feelings. And this actually goes into a negative process and they get very frustrated. And then if they're not treated, they're bound to actually get more and more into the next path, that is the depressive episode. So they can have what you call infrequent depressive episode, and then they can go to more frequent sort of a depressive episode. And with these sort of things, it is not unheard of. We have a lot of cases here where you actually get a sudden death. If there's especially if there's an underlying heart condition, you just drop dead. If you are arguing with somebody, you are so stressful, and you have an underlying condition, my advice is not to do that, because your life is at stake. You'll feel dizzy and you'll fall down and the heart will stop beating. You go into the asystolic pathway, it just stops. Sometimes you get a rhythm disturbance, there's survival there, ventricular fibrillation or atrial fibrillation, with defib, you survive. But asystole happens, very difficult to revive unless you have the equipment at that particular stage. So you have to be very careful about that, especially with heated verbal arguments. Next slide, please. Okay, now coming to I was talking about the stress. Okay, let's share a bit of thought on the anxiety. So what is anxiety? It is actually a feeling of unease. When you feel there's something wrong, I don't feel 100%, or I'm not up to the mark. That is the beginning of anxiety, And where this happens, there's always a fear of worrying too much. It could be mild or severe. It can happen that, and then sometimes it will lead to the problem anxiety about sitting an exam. For example, you can have what we call a residual problem, which we call due to the anxiety. That is the examination process. If you are not able to be 100% there, you are not able to sit that exam. And then the interview prospect, these are major stressors. You go into a UPSC interview or a job interview somewhere, normal person is stressed out, but anybody who has this problem is bound to be stressed out even further. So it goes on, and it happens. So what we need to do is not to panic, go into what we call the need for further medical examination, or at least a counseling. And I mentioned before, the panic disorder or the generalized anxiety disorder are actually some of the things which a person with stress will exhibit sometime or the later. And the phobias, like the agoraphobia and the claustrophobias, they will come into that. But one of the major things that happens after RTS or road traffic accident or any other traumatic, is the post-traumatic stress disorder. This affects the army, people in the army and the security personnel as well, when they are traumatized in the warfare. It's a major problem there, and they go into this. It's called post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. PTSD is very common in security personnel. Then the social anxiety. This is one of the things everyone is afraid of, because if you get into a social sort of anxiety, then this is a spillover sort of thing. People are able to catch on what is happening, and it goes among the circles, whether it's in the family, or is it outside the family with friends, or you are in a social media or somewhere else. It spills over. The effects will spill over with the way you are exchanging your messages and the way you are responding to your messages. The person will know that something is wrong. So this is another condition where you will need some treatment or some advice at least. Next slide, please.
Sir, sorry for interrupting, sir. We have a little time constraint also, so I would request you to kindly conclude. And during the Q&A sessions, and you can cover the rest of it while people ask questions to you.
Okay. No problem. So let's cover. I don't need the slides. Just I'll just conclude. Okay. So what I was trying to say is this is one part. The academic stress. I'll just say briefly about the academic stress. The academic stress is what happens where you are subjugated to a lot of abnormal stress when you are actually going into a examination mode. So in that situation, what you do, that you actually deal with in segmental fashion. Don't leave everything to the last moment. If you have a curriculum, you are preparing for exam, just do that months in advance, and you select your time and your space. You want to read in the evening, or you read early in the morning, or read late at night. But do cover the chapters and do it right. Don't leave everything to the last because you'll be stressed out. And the same thing happens is know your subjects well, and don't leave some things as a shortcut, because who knows, when you are actually sitting the exam, the ones you left out, didn't read, the same questions are coming from that subject, and that will create a major problem there. So read through, have a general impression of what the subjects are and what the topics would be, and go through that from time to time over a period of months. Repeat it if necessary. And during the day of the exam, make sure night before you get complete rest. You don't take a lot of stimulants like coffee, tea the previous night. Take a healthy breakfast in the morning. Drink plenty of fluids. Go well in time, because sometimes if you don't know where the examination hall is and where your seating arrangement is, you will arrive late. And if you arrive late, you'll have problems. So my advice to the student is, before that, confirm which site you have been placed, which examination hall, and where the placing is. Sometimes people go and have a look around. You know, if it's in a college campus, they look around. Okay, I'm in block A or I'm in block B. That actually de-stresses you, and you will just do that while you are actually sitting at the exam. Try to actually look at the examination paper in such a way where you attempt these questions where you know the answers fairly well. Okay, because you start with something you don't know, you'll be wasting a lot of time. So do all the questions which appear fairly easy for you. Leave some time for the difficult ones. So give some extra time for the difficult ones and give some extra time for revision, because in the revision some new answers might strike you. You collect something new, and that you can actually do that. So these are some of the things. I have a shortage of time. I cannot cover the bit there, but I think I have been able to pass some important aspect of stress and the examination blues. The examination blue, you call it, because you go into a depressive phase, you know, you go into a blue phase, the depression phase. And these are some of the methods or some of the topics we touched, which will actually relieve the person and kind of give some methodology of preparation, you know, for your exams, for your interviews, and for other things in life. So thank you so much for listening to me, and we'll take something up later on in our question and answer session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It was indeed a very elaborative discussion presentation on the concept of stress, starting from what is stress to the science of stress to the causes of stress and the types of stress. So you have covered in depth about it. And even in my introduction, I was talking about the flight and fright mechanism. But the why part of it, I guess people would have understood more after your presentation. So I thank you again. Now I would move ahead and I would request Dr. Asit Mahapatra to please go ahead with his deliberations. So please.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening to you all. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Biswajit Patnaik, who has invited me to be part of this webinar, and Dr. Smarki for giving me all the details of the webinar. I'm happy and delighted to be a co-panelist with Dr. Dilip Mahapatra, and intense details about stress management to also help me in the long run. Today's topic, which is quite relevant and useful to the student community as well as the faculties as well. I understand most of them will be here. I have seen from both sides, right from the corporate side, working for more than 35 years, as well as teaching the students who are anxious to get into good jobs, to preparing for the examination and the competitive spirit. So I'll try to touch upon from both angles, which I have had the privilege to see. The COVID-19 has also brought in a lot of change in the way the education is imparted, and with it also got its own learning as well as stress coping mechanisms. We are more acquainted with the terms of adapting to the terminologies like asynchronous method of learning, synchronous method of learning, hybrid method of teaching, learning management systems, and virtual classrooms. These are they're in very, very less numbers because we got very little time. So I like other faculties thought how to get into. I got into multiple webinars with Harvard Business School. The faculties they actually demonstrated in detail how they're able to manage the teaching methods and the class participation, how to engage students more, and how to ensure the lack of emotional bonding can be addressed to some extent. How sense of achievement and contribution and acknowledgement to students who there's nothing like sitting in the class and there can't be any substitute. So there were also huge issues about internet connectivity, the video and audio. Many of the faculties and students will realize that video audio is off, whether student is listening or not, whether the participant will not come to know. So there are various ways we have adapted to ensure the students are connected well, at least participate when the question is being asked to them. And the basically the faculties have a role to help in helping the students to manage the stress and cope with it. And this is the new normal situation which is going to continue. I was talking to Dr. Mahapathy, is telling it, we never know how the different phases of COVID is going to end. There's no understanding at all. Normally, as explained in detail, stress gives an impression of a negative thought. But however, there are distress and eustress. Eustress, the positive stress, all of you are aware, and eustress can lead to many positive results. You remember the days before the examination where your adrenaline soars up and you are able to stretch yourself and read and appear in the examination. I'm not telling that the best way, but yes, while in corporate also, when some presence is required or some important deliberation, we practically burn midnight oils, and we are able to do it. And this is not a regular phenomena, but yes, eustress can be a positive stress also. So what I'm trying to tell you, the secret lies in the coping mechanisms and the how to manage and work around stress. There are different personality types, but type A, type B, you must have studied in the psychology this thing. And one can't change the personality type, but one can really understand how to cope with your style, and that to be more effective. I came across an article today where our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, will be holding discussion with the students of India on Pariksha Pe Charcha. So he has given a small video before that, and I want to quote 2 points where he says, which was also brought out by Dr. Mahapatra: pressure of what people and parents will say sometimes becomes a burden for the students. Pressure of what people and parents will say becomes a burden. And looking up an examination as an opportunity and not an end of life's dreams. If I don't get into this, if I don't crack this examination, what happens? So that itself, appearing in the examination is less stressful than before the examination, the anxiety. I will dwell some of the points and some of the tips how to get over that, because we have to have time management. So I will quickly bring up the points, and maybe it'll be an opportunity to have more discussion or questions if there are any. I'll try to, now it is 5, next 10-15 minutes, I'll try to complete the bullet points, and then we'd like to probably leave 10 to 15 minutes at least for question answer session. So basically the first step to deal with exam anxiety is to recognize the signs of stress. And there are various, in details, Dr. Mahapatra has told what are the signs of stress. And second, parents, educators, and the college must encourage an open and honest communication. I repeat, an honest communication. If students bottle up, if they don't talk, what goes in the mind, we don't know. The more, excuse me, the more you draw them into discussion, they will come out what is going on in the mind. There are, during these times when people are lonely, people are stuck to their home, a lot of psychological helplines are there. It says that please speak, whomsoever you're comfortable, please speak and tell what is bothering you. So there are some tips, which is basically set realistic goals. Many times I see students, they all want to go to IIT, they all want to go to IIM. No doubt, the aim is all right, but you need to also ensure working around it. People come to the institute and then tell, oh, I tell, that is your alma mater. That's the best place you can be in. Try to be in the top 10 students rather than always dreaming, oh, I wish I could have gone to this college or that college. That's not right. That will maybe they're lingering on for a few days or few weeks, but get over that fast. And do a SWOT analysis and see what are your short-term and long-term goals. Parents and faculties have a role to play to align the students' expectation with the child. They don't force the children to get into either engineering or medicine or whatever line the parents feel that they should be not required. Each child So that's why you find this is I'm certified as a counselor on educate the guiding students which career path they should choose, and we get into details to understand whether there's a mismatch with what is their ambition and what they can actually go ahead. So there are ways, there are counselors available, career counselors which are not there during our times. Career councils are there. They can be really addressed. This is more applicable to the faculties whose children are into different stages, are getting into school or maybe into college. So please look at some of the career councils if possible. And time management is an area where student gets really stressed. They take it easy the life, and before the examination they feel that their time is running around to complete something. There are enough or more assignments, case studies, presentations to be made. People are burning the whole night. In the students were close by, and I used to see in 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, so they're comparing notes, understanding. Some faculties, they're telling, oh God, the kind of assignments they're giving, they themselves may not be able to complete if it's required for them to go through. So kind of a lot of stress happened. And yes, of course, this generation has more adaptability quotient. That's what I've seen. I've seen when it was during our times, it was a different kind of ball game. So help them to create a plan, a written work schedule, breakdown of tasks into manageable chunks to address the out of control feeling. You should not always feel time is not under my control. I can't do this. I love that. So to some extent, as a faculty, we also have a role to play to not ensure that whatever is in our mind, we will give the most difficult questions. We'll also ensure that students have to go through the grind. Those days are definitely has to be aligned with the current COVID-19 situation, where students are facing a lot of problems. Sleep, which was explained very well, sleep is essential, but sleep depravity is a very common phenomenon I've seen with the students, more so with the management students. I don't know, I can't ask this question, but I know for sure if I have a face-to-face, I've address you in person, say yes, we did there, they start gearing up for study, everything are past 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, they freak out after the class and they don't invest enough time. And then what happens? They come to the class. I've seen in my multiple IIM classes, students are bleary-eyed, not even having enough energy even to attend to the class. So I used to close the door after 15 minutes. At least 20% students are outside. Sir, please open. Next day we will come on time. Because they are absolutely tired and exhausted. How do you manage those things? Another thing which I want to stress upon is the positive self-talk. Anxiety often leads to negative thoughts and self-doubt. Educators should try to replace this with positive thoughts. Make students look back at how far they have come and how much they have already achieved, not what is they have not achieved. What they have done, they should be proud of something good in them, and that we need to reinforce in them. Also reinforce that they have prepared well, and there should be no reason to worry. This assurance from parents as well as the faculties are very vital. We should not, we should show them the realistic situation and work around if there are gaps to help them in overcoming that. Healthy mindset, reminding students that failure is an opportunity for growth and learning, and it's a key aspect of success. In this unprecedented time of COVID-19, students have many unanswered questions. What happens right from the time where there'll be a summer internship program to whether I'll be selected by any company. And there are some questions cannot be answered, to tell you honestly. But however, these times will change, and definitely we have to help them get into some entrepreneur mode. I have advise my students that get into some new learning these days, the digital mode of learning, whatever stream one is learning, is vital and essential. Big data, artificial intelligence, whatever you talk about in those space, one has to learn, and they are very available very cheaply through Coursera, Udemy, if paying few hundred rupees. This will enrich their biodata, and I've guided people how to ensure that they write well. The recruiters, the attention span is in seconds, not even minutes. If I'm a recruiter, I will just look at it, a few bullet point. I find what is the differentiating factor for this student is presenting to me. Every in college, every university will have a standard one-page profile, which I'm sure you will do it, but bring out something how you can ensure that you will be able to write something different. Like one is big data. Other thing I'll tell you, there are unconventional methods of reaching out companies. While your institute or university will help you to get into companies, but I've seen what helps, and these are unconventional. Please note, it helps. Find out at least 8 to 10 companies, and how will you find out? You see the sectors which is rising, which is doing well even in these times. Find out the CMD's name and write a covering letter after doing an analysis of the company directly to CMD. Don't laugh, this works. If you write to 10 companies, at least one company or two companies, CMD will write to HR, this boy or girl seems to be enterprising. Why don't you call or talk to him or her? Because very rarely people will connect up to the CMD. They write to HR head, it goes to the dustbin, or it gets into Sidetrack. It's called data bank mein rakh dijiye. Data bank never gets open to see. If you're right. Other thing is, networking abilities have really helped. Networking abilities means find out at least 15, 20 friends, relative, colleagues, neighbors, teachers, anybody talk about. And from there you find out if there anybody who is there who can have some influence role. What is required is your profile through reach the company, not through Naukri.com or IIM.com. That there are thousands of profiles are lying and very little scope for this. If you find out your uncle's brother is in some company, he's a DGM, you tell him that, uncle, kindly send my profile to the HR. So you know that it's reaching to the right person. So you expand your reachability through this focused networking. Third thing is, you do enough and more Facebook and other activities. But remember, two things I'll tell you. Get into LinkedIn in a big way. Right? LinkedIn, find out who are the influencers. If Leena Nair is an influencer, HUL, so get into a blog. Find out and write in the blog and like the blog of somebody. You will get noticed. And LinkedIn is the one where recruiters are really looking for people, not into job sites. I've seen this and it really works. So get into LinkedIn. The third thing is, get into some of these bodies where you will be able to, like, if an HR, you get into NHRD, you are in marketing, you get into marketing. So you are able to reach out to people. Visibility management is very essential in these days. What is your knowledge? Who knows? It gets into the right person who is in a position to give you the job. That's essential. So please remember, these are the things which are unconventional, but will improve your opportunity to get noticed and get probably a call. Because if you get a call for an interview, at least 50% of your word. After that, you have to impress. And if you can have areas which are something different and which is relevant to the company, so enough and more homework should be done about the company. No standard biodata, no standard covering letter will help you. I'm telling you as a recruiter, as well as a person who worked in multiple IIMs and taught many students. Remember this. So when you are looking at the tips for reducing stress, enough and more has been done. Dr. Mahapatra touched upon very briefly because of the lack of time, but I will tell you, realistic revised timetable. Put wherever you are sitting in front of a table, you have a small chart written there. Write down a timetable and ensure, if you're reading 2 hours, make it fast, and consistency is what matters. The spike of doing it before the examination is not healthy for you. You may or may not be able to succeed. There is no, what is the difference between a topper and the people who are into the lower percentile? God has not given different brain capacity, I'm telling you. Your focus area may be different. Some people are analytical, some people are able to write very well, theoretical papers, that's fine. But your weakness areas you should work on, and make brief notes of the books, and highlight, workout revisions, revise nicely. One revision is essential, and always ask for help if you don't understand. There's no harm. I've seen students before the examination asking the students who are good, taking and giving to the photocopy person, ye notebook pura photocopy kar do. So they think they will read overnight, nothing happens. You can't. Xerox, so consistency matters. Agar photocopy karna hai, student who write very well, good English, good handwriting, then do it consistently, not just 5 days before the examination, fold the photocopy. So who gains? The Xerox machine wala next to your office or in your institute, wherever it is. So that really doesn't help. Never forget that there's a life after revision examination. Try to be cool in the examination. As Dr. Mahapat said, you first attempt questions which are easy to answer, and not attempt the difficult ones, because you are going by serial order, not required. So the other thing I want to tell you, that what is essential to beat the exam blues is that you have to have take a break. You have a limited time, and you have to, don't push yourself beyond the boundaries. There'll be burnout, as he has explained. Meditation is not the people, elderly people like us who do meditation. Just sitting quietly, introspecting 5-10 minutes a day definitely helps. Try it out, my dear friend. You will get it. There are a number of research. There are more than 68,000 thoughts come to our mind every day. That's a scientific thing. So thoughts will keep on coming. Don't worry about it. We are not into going to Himalayas to meditate. Sit down quietly. If the thought comes to your mind, don't worry about it. But this will bring, if you're restless, feeling anxious, and many times the answers to your questions will come from inside, not asking people. It will definitely help. Maintain a healthy diet, and diet is very, very essential. Do not skip breakfast or any particular meal, and basically you need to be consistently, because food is one of the important aspects. If your body is not fit, you can't do anything better. And good night sleep, again I'm reinforcing, and get some exercise every day, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you feel it is important for you. Identify triggers. Sometimes the stress triggers you should find out, and during the, what are the triggers, how can you remove? If it's a friend who is constantly judging your progress, checking social media apps, or even certain foods, somebody is not sending you enough likes in your Facebook, and you feel bad why the person is not sending enough likes, then you better shut off for a few Facebook for some time, rather than looking at why I'm not getting so many likes. Try to cut these out of your life for some time, at least till your exam is over. The experiment with fun techniques. Studying from textbook day after day can be boring and monotonous. It's not surprising that it can lead to undue stress. Well, fix and try to find some technique, making a flashcard, making pointers, like when we go for a public speaking, cue cards, make a study group. Group learning sometimes helps. So it is essential that you find different ways. And other thing I want to stress is, don't be self-critical, my dear friend. You build on your strength and not on your weaknesses. All of us have our weaknesses. Don't harp on this thing. And that's why there are people who are trying to always talk to you about negatives. Be away from those people, because positive energy attracts positive people. So essential that you need to understand. Don't criticize yourself. Try to see something I will tell. NLP, neuro-linguistic program. I'm a master practitioner. Look at NLP. See this. What are the projective techniques are there? It will help you. If there would be enough time, I could give examples, but not much time. But I'm telling you, it helps. The negativity can end up causing a lot of harm, not just now, but in the long term. There are various diseases which has been explained by Dr. Mahapatra. You have to understand. So celebrate milestones. There are enough and more to celebrate. Celebrate small victories. If you do something, you complete one chapter, go out and have ice cream if you like it, or all call for small platters. But you have to pamper yourself. If you can't pamper yourself, who is going to pamper you? Get help. If you try to manage the stress and yours, but nothing is working, reach out for help. Talk about, ask people, ask your parents, older siblings, or even teacher you trust. Be open. Ask for help to reach out to medical professional required. Like if you are in, my brother-in-law is a psychiatrist in US. He's telling there people don't mind. Like Dr. Mahapatra said, in India we feel people feel fat, so they don't even come for any psychiatric diseases. So you have to open up and tell, because you want your well-being, my dear friend. So I just want to tell you that you know it. But what is important, that your exam stress can be added. This is the last point I'm telling you, by your parents, by comparing with your siblings. Your elder brother was doing better, your younger sister is studying more, you are not studying enough. So even I advise the parents, if you're a parent, please don't compare. Each child is unique, and he or she will do better, and you have to respect that. With this, I conclude my talk, but I'm more open to have a dialogue, including Dr. Mahapatra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, Dr. Dilip Mahapatra, he gave us a medical practitioner's perspective in totality, and you being a teacher and academician, your perspective was more of, when even I was thinking of my way of delivering the introduction. So this also came to my mind as though this particular topic is anyway very relevant and very pertinent. But as because we have COVID-19, the pressure on students it has increased tenfold. So that is why, when we have shifted from a totally classroom teaching to a virtual space, the tension, the stress has also increased. So as because you had the time constraints, still, no, generally people do not talk about the positive part of stress, which you talked about, the stress, the euphoria we talk about, which, increases our productivity level. So in that also you talked about the personality traits, be it type A, type B of, Friedman and Rosenman. So everything in totality, what I take from your presentation is, as individuals, we should try on build upon our strengths. We should try on, leverage upon our strengths and not think about our weaknesses. Now I will just try and take few questions from our participants. I have noted down few questions from them. I'll just put forward one by one. There's a question from Mr. Rajneesh Kumar. He says that, do you think that stress management is only on paper, or can it really be managed? If yes, how?
Dr. Mahapatra, please. You are qualified to answer.
Okay. No, I thought you were going to take this. But anyway, no, it's stress management is real. It's not virtual. Okay, it's not on paper. There are tools for this. And there are different tools. The tools actually starts from the intervention side, the medical side, and then there are analytical tools you can use, and there are specific student tools you can use, to de-stress yourself. And I was just listening to Professor Mahapatra. He did a very good student's perspective on this. Actually, good I didn't speak the rest, because this I had covered myself as well. So it's good. So one of the aspects there, which is very clearly said, is the peer pressure. A lot of the stress is due to our peer pressure, and you can manage from there. Like if your parents are stressing you out with the comparative sort of thing with siblings, that can be managed from that source, The other thing is your colleagues or even your friends, because they might say, look, we are doing so well, you are not achieving the grades. Everybody is built different. Everybody is built to deliver a capacity. And the end point of getting a grade is not there. Just look at the average qualification of our politicians and how they run the country. That will give you a perspective. So it is not, grade is not the answer to it. The only answer to that would be how you actually apply the knowledge. The knowledge application, the practical application of that will actually bring you up to a level which you would not dreamed of. So the knowledge ingestion, orbital, what you get in, and then how you actually bring it out to application is what is the best result from any university education or college education. Now the two, as this gentleman was asking, the tools are there. It is real. It's not virtual at the moment. Okay, COVID, everything is virtual, but it's face to face. You actually get solution to it. First, they will identify all your stress, and then they will actually give you a solution for it. Whether it be a counseling solution, whether it be a solution from a different member which is more specialized than counseling, or finally a physician, who's doing de-stressing clinics, or a physician, with the interest in stress and stress behaviors, can do it. Psychologist upgrade is there to psychiatrist. As Professor Mahapatra was saying, here we do not have that problem. Here, a psychiatrist visit is as welcome as an internist visit. There's not a problem. But in India, it is, you have to hide that. If you want to go, what is this? This is also a problem. It is a mental problem. Like you have a physical problem, you have a mental problem. And there are solutions to it, and there are real pathways to it. So my take on this is, never think that you will not get a solution for whatever your problem is due to stress or anxiety. And the second thing is, it's not virtual. These are curative measures, and you will actually get cured of all this thing. Thank you.
Would you like to add anything to what Dilip sir said, Asit sir?
No, it's understandable. It cannot be. It is real. Stress is for real. There's nothing much to add here.
Okay, there's a very interesting question from Miss Sunita Devi. She says that it's always about the stress of students, but what about the stress of teachers who have to handle that youth? Please try to throw some light on it.
Yeah, I can tell you that stress on the part of the teacher is much more than the students. I'm telling you with first-hand experience of managing the virtual student class for more than a year. I have seen the kind of students are required to change their style of teaching and understand there's so many things are there. The different subjects are there where you write on the blackboard, you do a problem solving, you also ensure that you give different projects, you make small groups. So all those things have to be learned. Examination, how do you administer a quiz? How do you ensure that examination questions are given? How do you manage a project? You give group projects, you give individual projects, you want student to present before you. All are quite challenging. So it's much more for the faculty to cope with this than the students. That's my honest submission.
Okay, sir. There's another question from Professor Mahanti. He is asking, I would like to know if there's any link between stress and one's genes. I mean, is stress genetically connected? I believe Dilip sir would be more comfortable answering this, sir.
Yeah. But let me qualify one thing. The question before, which was asked to Professor Asit Mahapatra, I believe it's true. The stressors equally affect the faculty, But what happens there is a bit I can go in just a minute. The faculty itself also have two different personalities. There's a type A, there's a type B. It affects more the type A, not the type B. The type B are laid back. They are not interested in anything. They just do whatever they want to do, and that's what it is. And for that reason, we have an integrated teaching program here. The integrated teaching program has to be there to deliver the optimum program for any subject, where the type Bs are drawn out. They have to perform. You can't just I'm laid out and not responding to anything, or even responding in a haphazardly way. So that's one of the things we'll look at. And hopefully we'll have that sort of a system coming into the Indian educational pool as well. The integrated system where these people who are underperforming from the faculty will be picked up and retrained or go through a courses, specific courses. That's going to happen. Now coming to the genetic thing, yes, genes play a lot of things. The genes are the storage material. Okay, as we evolved, like the nearest cousin to us is the bonobo, which shares about 98.7% of our gene pool. Okay, as we have become hominid, while we are walking on 4 limbs and then we are now walking erect on 2, things have changed, and it has changed to a certain extent where the basic remembrance genes are there, which kind of exhibits itself. So it is a known fact that genetic makeup can determine your outcome, especially neurological outcome in certain diseases. Okay, so there is a evidence-based theory on this. So I would say gene plays a specific role in this, and now we are actually doing a gene modification program. Gene modification, stem cell are going hand in hand. Genome therapy has come in, so hopefully we'll have rescue genome therapy for all this problem. Thank you.
So before concluding, I would just take one last question, and this has been asked by a number of people. So why not to conclude by projecting certain stress management tips in general? There's questions like what are the stress management tips in general? Coping strategies, maybe.
Do you take it?
Okay. One thing which was in there, I didn't touch up was the COVID situation, because the COVID situation pandemic is unusual. We were not expecting this to last so long, but it has lasted. It has produced what we call a cabin fever syndrome. So the cabin fever syndrome is because of the proximity of so many people living in a single unit, not able to go out, not able to do their usual activities, that is happening. So my tip is make the best of it. If you are not able to go out, you can do a lot of things inside the house. Like you can also pursue a hobby, if the house or the garden actually gives you that space, even you don't have to go to a gym. You can do small exercise, aerobic exercise, and stay fit. Because if you don't hydrate your body and stay fit, the stress is going to pull you down further. So you have to be physically fit to handle stress. Okay. The next thing is that it has also given us an opportunity. The opportunity is the virtual world. Who was thinking of doing all these classes here or tutorials virtually, in the platform, So it has brought in a lot of things which was not possible from international perspective. So we are getting a lot of things delivered to our doorstep through our windows, whether you are using iPad, a PC, or some other devices. So that's see why I'm telling you this. Take only the positive thing which stress has provided you. Leave the negative things out, and that's the first general thing. The next thing is do not postpone anything because you are in an unprecedented situation, unnatural situation. Bring it back to your natural flow, your natural rhythm, your ideals. All these things should actually go uninterrupted, because if you interrupt that, it builds up. The stressors are building up, So don't actually leave that situation to that point. And if you are, God forbid, but if you are doing any exams or anything, just behave in a natural way. You have a space concentration, and you also have some what we call a free walk constitution, that you are actually not going out. But the others are still there. You can still have a healthy lifestyle at home. You can also prepare for your examination at home. If the library is not available, at least you are pulling all the information through your PC or through your iPhone. So you can actually download whatever you need to do and do that. Don't think that I have to go to a library to get access to the books. Everywhere you can get access to the books, which is also stressing a lot of our students. But the library closed, so I'm unable to go. And the most important bit there is understanding. The because we are living in a unnatural sort of condition at the moment, the understanding should be there. There should be more empathy and sympathy, between the peers, the students, the family members, the guardians, or the relatives. Everybody has to share the responsibility. Don't push everything on to the poor student. That this is what you have got, do whatever you want to do. No, everybody has a designated responsibility. You take on those responsibility, things will work out. And when things work out, you become as normal as possible. You are de-stressed. That means you are facing a new world, a new situation with more determination and more courage. So those are the things. I want to revive this, what you call a positive thing about this. Everything can be done in a positive way. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you want
See,
to add anything to what?
It gets said quite well, but I just probably make an attempt to add few at the cost of maybe few repetitions. Try to relax, keep your stress level to a minimum. Nobody can be perfect, and one can do whatever he or she can do best. No comparison. Be mindful in what you are doing. You have to be mindful. This is mindfulness, meditation kind of things coming. So this is very important. Be compassionate to other people. You see you are in a privileged position, then so many people who don't have any square meal to eat, they are on the road. So see how privileged you are. Count on your blessings. That's more important. You have to see that you're alive, you are staying in a house, you're safe, secure. These are the things which will help you. Make sure you're able to sell out some time for exercise, whatever kind of exercise you want to do, walking, cycling, aerobic, swimming, whatever is possible. You should get some fresh air every day, even 10 minutes walk in the park around your own block. Even there's a COVID restrictions there, you can make a round of your building, whatever you can do it better. If you find it motivating, set some time for your hobbies. I have read many people, they're told, I used to do it, painting, whatever it is. Now they've started doing that thing, which is very interesting. My hobbies are calligraphy. So I write a lot of calligraphy. I do autograph collection, which is now a little restricted because I don't get to meet so many VIPs, but I do dowsing. So you have to find something which has a variety, which keeps you active and gives you happiness. If there's a favorite program, you have enough or more time to watch, but don't totally engross yourself into the OTT platform. So your eyes are tired and bloody-eyed. If khana khane ke time maybe you are watching the TV, anything you do, you're watching the TV is not good. A person time and in your relaxed time, don't think about your work and exam. You have to compartmentalization, switch on, switch off technique. Otherwise, you will not. Somebody asked one of the saints in India, what is your take on work-life balance? He told, if you like your work, that becomes your job, that becomes your life. So there is no boundary. In Google, they provide, I've gone to in US, the Google office, they provide everything in the office, right from the food, your tennis court, to music, to piano, everything. So that means students, the employees don't feel like getting out of that place. So whole time they're devoted. So there's nothing compartment, but in your mind, you have to compartmentalize. This time is me time. The me time should improve. And again, I'm repeating, have a balanced diet. That is lot of positive motivation come if you have the balanced diet. And do not carry your problem to the next day. Either fight with your brother or parents or siblings or spouse, resolve it in the same night and learn to say sorry and thank you more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would just like to conclude and take a few minutes to mention a brief takeaway from this session. We have heard both the panelists, and I assume the basic step, the first step, the basic step towards reducing any kind of stress should be learning what are your triggers. If you know what pushes your buttons, you also know how to avoid it. And but there are certain stresses we have to accept, so we must change our reactions to them as well. I assume man is the most adaptive creature on the planet because of the evolution of human brain, especially the part called the neocortex. And this adaptability is largely due to the changes and the stressors, that we have faced and mastered. Therefore, we, unlike other animals, can live in any kind of climate or ecosystem at various altitudes and avoid dangers of those predators also. So, moreover, we have learned to live in the air, under the sea, even in the space where no living creature have ever survived. So then I believe with better clarity and awareness, even the humans can beat stress as well. So with these few words as takeaway, I would like to thank our esteemed panel members for accepting our invitation and for sharing their valuable insights and wisdom on a topic which is so pertinent and relevant, especially when COVID-19 is bringing up quite a bit of intense emotions in us, especially the students. And you've touched upon everything, starting from how can one work with those emotions to move on, move forward in uncertain times, and the strategies, the tools which are particularly very useful for keeping ourselves calm and carrying on. So I also thank all the participants for their support. I am overwhelmed. I would like to mention that we have a lot of participants from outside the country as well. I also would like to thank my IT team for all their support and cooperation. The feedback link has been shared in the chat box. Before closing, I would like to mention that our next webinar, which is the 36th webinar, is scheduled to happen on 25th of April 2021 on MSME and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Please register yourself. We are present in Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Please follow us for regular information. Thanks again for joining us today. I wish you good health and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik,
Thank
for the
you.
wonderful coordination.
Not at all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.